The officers' mess hall fell silent as Commander Sarah Chen walked past the long tables, her worn combat boots echoing against the metal floor. The newer recruits, fresh-faced Altarians with their pristine blue uniforms and untested confidence, whispered among themselves as she passed. Their bioluminescent patches flickered with curiosity and barely concealed disdain. "How does a human hold such a high rank in the Galactic Defense Force?" one of them muttered, just loud enough for her to hear. "Humans are barely past their nuclear age. They've only been in space for 2 centuries." Commander Chen stopped walking. She turned slowly, her scarred hands resting casually on her hips. The Altarian who had spoken, Lieutenant Zixtal by the rank insignia, straightened nervously as her dark eyes fixed on him. "You want to know how I got my rank, Lieutenant?" Her voice was calm, controlled. Around the mess hall, conversations died as every being present turned to watch. The young Altarian's bioluminescent patches flared brighter, a sign of embarrassment among his species. I meant no disrespect, Commander. None taken." Sarah's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Follow me." She led them through the corridors of the massive space station, past the viewing ports that showed the swirling nebula beyond. Her destination was the Memorial Wing, a section most personnel avoided unless required to visit. The walls here were different, made of transparent aluminum that offered an unobstructed view of space. But it wasn't the stars they were looking at. Floating in the void, preserved in the vacuum of space, was the wreckage of what had once been the Kethmori invasion fleet. Twisted metal hulks drifted in perfect formation, a graveyard of alien warships that stretched for kilometers. The metal was blackened, scorched by weapons fire and plasma burns. Some ships had been split completely in half, their interiors exposed like dissected specimens. "Kepler 442b, Sarah said quietly. 3 years ago, the Kethmori came with 2,000 ships, the largest invasion force the galaxy had ever seen. They'd already conquered 17 systems. Their technology was superior. Their numbers were overwhelming. The Galactic Defense Force had assembled every available ship from 43 member species." Lieutenant Zixtal and his companions stared at the wreckage, their bioluminescent patches now dim with soberness. "We had 800 ships," Sarah continued. "The battle lasted 14 hours. In the first 6 hours, we lost half our fleet. The Altarian Third Fleet was decimated. The Vegan Defense Corps retreated after losing their flagship. The Rigelian battlecruisers were picked apart like paper." She pressed her palm against the transparent wall, her reflection ghost-like in the metal surface. The retreat order was given. Every species began falling back to defensive positions. Every species except one. Her voice hardened. "Humans don't retreat. We don't know how." One of the younger Altarians, barely more than a cadet, spoke. Up. "But Commander, how could you possibly—" "Because we're insane." Sarah's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Every other species in the galaxy has evolved past the point of suicidal aggression. You've all learned that sometimes retreat is the logical choice, that preservation of life is more important than victory." She turned from the window to face them directly. "Humans never learned that lesson. When the retreat order came, Captain Morrison of the human fleet sent back a single message. Negative. We're going to finish this." The silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant hum of the station's life support systems. 87 human ships against what remained of the Kethmori fleet. Over 1,000 vessels. We should have been obliterated in minutes. Sarah's eyes grew distant, remembering. But humans have one advantage in space combat that no other species possesses. "What's that?" Lieutenant Zixtal asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "We're willing to ram our ships into yours." The Altarian's patches flickered in confusion and horror. The Kethmori had never encountered kamikaze tactics. Their battle algorithms couldn't compute it. When the UES Defiant rammed their command dreadnought at full burn, taking out their entire command structure, their fleet fell into chaos. Sarah pointed at the largest piece of wreckage, a massive hull section that had once belonged to a ship the size of a small moon. That's what's left of the Kethmori flagship. I flew my fighter directly into their reactor core. The explosion took out 16 escort ships. She rolled up her sleeve, revealing skin mottled with burn scars and surgical marks. I spent 4 months in medical reconstruction. When I woke up, they'd promoted me to commander and put me in charge of tactical planning for the entire 7th Fleet. Lieutenant Zixtal stared at her with something approaching awe. You survived a reactor core detonation? Humans are hard to kill, Sarah said simply. It's our most useful trait in a galaxy full of things trying to kill us. She began. Walking back toward the mess hall, the group of young officers trailing behind her like chastened children. The Galactic Defense Force learned something that day, she continued. Sometimes you don't need superior technology or overwhelming numbers. Sometimes you just need someone crazy enough to fly into a nuclear explosion and live to tell about it. As they reached the mess hall, Lieutenant Zixtal cleared his throat nervously. Commander, is it true what they say about humans? That you're all like that? Sarah paused at the entrance, considering the question seriously. Lieutenant, my species once convinced itself that strapping bombs to our bodies and running at our enemies was a viable military strategy. We've fought wars with pointed sticks, dropped nuclear weapons on our own planet, and sent people to the moon using computers less powerful than the calculator in your uniform pocket. She looked back at the memorial wing, where the burned remnants of an alien fleet served as a permanent reminder of human stubbornness. So yes, she said quietly, we're all like that. That's why they give us the important jobs. As the Altarian officers filed back to their tables, their whispered conversations now carried a different tone entirely. Respect, perhaps, or possibly just healthy fear. Commander Sarah Chen took her usual seat at the far end of the mess hall, alone as always. She'd grown accustomed to the solitude that came with her reputation. In a galaxy of logical, evolved species, humans remained beautifully, dangerously insane. And sometimes that was exactly what the galaxy needed.